Have you ever looked at a stone and wondered about the secrets locked within? Throughout history, certain rocks and stones have fascinated scholars, adventurers, and enthusiasts alike. These mysterious formations, etched with mysterious carvings or possessing unusual properties, stand as silent witnesses to civilizations past and puzzles unsolved. Imagine discovering a pair of intriguing pillars near Aberdeen, Scotland in the 19th century, or stumbling upon a stone that might predate the solar system itself. These remarkable stones, scattered across the globe, offer us tantalizing glimpses into lost civilizations, ancient beliefs, and maybe even connections to worlds beyond our own. Join us as we uncover the strange rocks and stones that have not only helped shape human history, but continue to captivate our imaginations with their stories. Welcome to Fireside Unsolved, Episode 85, Strange Rocks and Stones Throughout History. The Dighton Rock is a massive 40-ton boulder that was found resting in the Taunton River at Berkeley, Massachusetts, and has become famous for its intriguing petroglyphs. These carvings depict a variety of lines, geometric shapes, and schematic drawings of people, along with both confirmed and disputed forms of writing. The exact origins of these engravings remain a subject of intense debate among scholars and historians. The rock itself is a slanted, six-sided block, standing approximately 5 feet tall, 9.5 feet wide, and 11 feet long. Made from gray-brown crystalline sandstone, its surface is marked by a trapezoidal face tilted at a 70-degree angle northwestward, originally facing towards the bay. In 1680, Reverend John Danforth sketched the petroglyphs adorning the Dighton Rock, a record now safeguarded within the hallowed halls of the British Museum. His rendition stands as a unique snapshot, capturing details that diverge from subsequent observations and the current state of the markings. In 1690, Reverend Cotton Mather vividly portrayed the rock in his seminal work, The Wonderful Works of God Commemorated. Within its pages, he eloquently described the mysterious and intricate engravings etched upon its weathered surface, evoking a sense of awe and curiosity about the ancient inscriptions. Among the other curiosities of New England, one is that of a mighty rock, on a perpendicular side whereof by a river, which at high tide covers part of it, there are very deeply engraved, no man alive knows how or when, about 60 lines, near 10 foot long, and 1.5 feet broad, filled with strange characters, which would suggest as odd thoughts about them that were here before us, as there are odd shapes in that elaborate monument. Contrary to Mather's portrayal of deeply incised markings, early reports suggested that the indentations on the Dighton Rock were not particularly profound. Descriptions and depictions over the centuries have varied, indicating considerable weathering and presenting challenges in deciphering the intricate carvings. Theories about the markings' origins include indigenous peoples of North America, who created similar petroglyphs, ancient Phoenicians, proposed in 1783 by Ezra Stiles, Norse explorers, suggested in 1837 by Carl Christian Raffin but later rejected by archaeologists, Portuguese explorers, particularly Miguel Corte Real, suggested by Edmund B. de la Barre in 1912. Chinese explorers, proposed by Gavin Menzies in his 2002 book, 1421, The Year China Discovered America. In November 1952, the Miguel Corte Real Memorial Society acquired land adjacent to the Dighton Rock with intentions to establish a park. However, a year prior, in 1951, the Massachusetts legislature intervened by expropriating the land for state park purposes. By 1963, efforts to preserve the rock led to its removal from the riverbed and relocation to a museum within Dighton Rock State Park. Recognizing its historical significance, the site was formally listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1971. The Hypatia stone was unearthed in December 1996 by Ali A. Barakat in close proximity to a dense, glassy material resembling Libyan desert glass. There is widespread consensus that the rock originated from beyond Earth. Originally weighing approximately 30 grams, the initial sample was dissected and distributed among several laboratories for examination, ultimately reducing its mass to about 4 grams. The designation of the Hypatia stone, named after Hypatia of Alexandria, who lived approximately 360 AD to 415 AD, a celebrated philosopher, astronomer, mathematician, and inventor, diverges from the customary practice of naming meteorites after nearby geographical sites. In South Africa, Scientists Jan Kramers and Georgi Belyanin from the University of Johannesburg conducted experiments revealing that the Hypatia stone contains microscopic diamonds. This finding, along with unusual isotopic distributions previously unseen in known sources, supports the hypothesis that the Hypatia stone originated from beyond Earth. Despite debates over possible contamination from Earth, proponents argue that any such contamination likely occurred through impact processes, involving incorporation of terrestrial atmosphere, the mechanics of which are still not fully understood. Additional statistical analyses bolster the hypothesis that the stone originated from the theoretical celestial body responsible for the chemically distinct Libyan desert glass. If this correlation holds, the Hypatia stone likely collided with Earth around 28 million years ago. Its exceptional chemical composition has sparked conjecture that it might even predate the formation of our solar system. In 2018, Belyanin, Kramers, and their research team unearthed a variety of compounds within the stone, including polyaromatic hydrocarbons, silicon carbide, and a novel nickel phosphide compound. These findings, alongside observations of silicon to carbon ratios divergent from terrestrial norms and those of major planets like Mars and Venus, point towards the Hypatia stone's likely extraterrestrial origin. While some similarities to interstellar dust exist, its elemental makeup also bears resemblances to earthly materials. In 2022, Kramers and Andreoli proposed an intriguing theory that the Hypatia stone could represent the earliest evidence on Earth of a type Ia supernova explosion. They theorized that the stone's distinctive properties might stem from materials forged in such a cataclysmic stellar event. Despite these compelling discoveries, independent studies confirming or refuting its extraterrestrial origins have yet to be conducted. Thus, the scientific community remains tantalized by the Hypatia stone's mysterious nature, awaiting further investigation to unlock its secrets. Perched on a steep hill commanding a sweeping vista of Cusco, the formidable complex of Sacsayhuaman stands as a testament to ancient Inca ingenuity. Archaeological findings from surface pottery collections suggest that the hilltop's earliest habitation dates back to around 900 CE. According to Inca oral traditions, Tupac Inca recalled his father Pachacuti dubbing Cusco the Lion City. He envisioned the city's layout. The confluence of two rivers formed the tail. The bustling Great Square and its encircling houses represented the body, yet the city lacked a definitive head. Thus, the Inca decided that a fortress atop a lofty plateau north of the city would serve as the perfect crown for their Lion City. In the 15th century, during the reign of the Imperial Inca, this settlement at Sacsayhuaman underwent a monumental expansion. The Inca engineers crafted awe-inspiring dry stone walls using massive blocks of stone, unmatched in size and precision throughout pre-Hispanic America. These stones, meticulously cut and fitted, are so tightly joined that not even a single sheet of paper can slide between many of them. Their rounded corners, diverse interlocking shapes, and inward-leaning design are thought to have been key factors in the fortress's resilience against Cusco's frequent earthquakes. Among these walls, the longest stretches approximately 1,300 feet in length and stands 20 feet tall, or 400 meters by 6 meters. The combined volume of stone used exceeds 6,000 cubic meters, almost 65,000 square feet of stone. The largest limestone blocks weighed between 128 to nearly 200 tons each, which is approximately 400,000 pounds. These colossal stones were quarried approximately 35 kilometers away, 21 miles, at Rumicolca, a testament to the Incas' remarkable engineering prowess and organizational skills. After the siege of Cusco, the Spaniards swiftly repurposed Sacsayhuaman as a quarry for their ambitious reconstruction of Spanish Cusco. Within a short span, they systematically dismantled much of the complex, extracting stones to erect new governmental, religious, and elite residential structures. Garcilaso de la Vega recounted their pragmatic approach, noting that to circumvent the laborious techniques employed by indigenous craftsmen, the Spaniards dismantled all the finely crafted masonry from the walls. Vince Lee, known for his expertise as an author, architect, and explorer, has delved into the mysteries of ancient sites that feature massive megalithic structures. His hypothesis suggests an intricate method for positioning these colossal blocks. First, they were meticulously carved to precise dimensions, ensuring snug joints that fit into pre-prepared recesses in the walls. According to Lee's theory, the process involved towing the blocks up inclined ramps and positioning them atop stacks of logs. Gradually removing the logs one by one allowed the stones to be carefully lowered into place. Although experimental trials on a smaller scale yielded mixed results, Lee posits that the Incas likely possessed the capability to hoist stones back up to rectify any imperfect joints initially made. Lee's investigations extended to nearby Ollantaytambo, where further experiments in towing megalithic stones encountered varying degrees of success. Notably, Their attempt to lower a 1-ton stone down a mountain ended in loss of control, highlighting the necessity for meticulous control during such operations. Conversely, they achieved success in moving a nearly 10-ton stone on cobblestones, employing a coordinated effort of over 100 individuals pulling on numerous ropes, complemented by a dozen pushing from behind. These endeavors shed light on the ingenuity and challenges involved in the ancient Inca techniques for handling and placing monumental stone blocks. The Inca civilization left an indelible mark with a sprawling road network spanning 25,000 kilometers or 15,500 miles, incorporating paved stone routes. Despite numerous attempts, modern experiments to transport large megaliths have yet to fully replicate the remarkable feats witnessed by Pedro Chiesa de Leon in the 16th century. Notably, the largest megaliths presently found at these sites exceed twice the size of those described by Chiesa de Leon, underscoring the enduring mystery of Sacsayhuaman. Today, only the colossal stones that proved too cumbersome to transport remain scattered across the site, serving as enduring reminders of both the Incas' engineering prowess and the rapid transformation of their imperial capital under Spanish rule. In 1804, the Earl of Aberdeen came across 2 curious upright stones during road construction. These stones were excavated and relocated to the garden of Alexander Gordon, an antiquarian residing at Newton House. Believed to originate from the 6th or 7th centuries, they hold ancient engravings. In a letter penned on September 10, 1885, Lord Aberdeen reflected, "The stone, at the time to which I refer, might have been passed by thousands without characters being at all observed. The rugged surface and the rude manner in which the letters are inscribed rendered them little likely to attract notice." The Newton stone comprises one of these 2 pillars, with the first pillar standing approximately 2 meters tall, slightly shorter than its counterpart. According to Scottish heritage authorities, the symbols carved into the first pillar distinctly belong to the Pictish tradition, featuring motifs like a serpent, a Z-rod, and a double disc. These symbols are not unique to the Newton stone and have been identified at other Pictish sites across Scotland. Alternatively, some scholars speculate that the stone could represent a form of Pictish script yet to be fully deciphered. The proximity of another Pictish stone, the Bransbutt stone in Aberdeenshire, which also features a serpent carving, hints at a potential pilgrimage route connecting these significant sites. This association adds layers to the mystery surrounding the Newton stone, captivating historians and linguists who continue to explore its meaning and significance. Given the scarcity of artifacts left by the Picts from the early Middle Ages, such carved stones are crucial for unraveling their historical legacy. In contrast, the second stone presents a more interesting puzzle. Inscriptions on the left side of the pillar are speculated to be in Ogham, an ancient script associated with Irish and Brittonic languages. Ogham is characterized by long lines marked with slashes and dashes, possibly spelling out the name Ethernan, though the exact significance remains unknown. The right half of the Newton stone presents a compelling mystery with its strange script and peculiar symbols, including a swastika. Despite efforts, the meaning of these carvings remains undeciphered, leading some to speculate that they might be nonsensical. Since 1814, various writers have published interpretations of the script in hopes of capturing the interest of linguists, resulting in a plethora of theories. Cracking the code of this unknown script is crucial to unraveling the secrets held by the Newton stone. Scholars have proposed 5 ancient languages as potential candidates: debased Latin, Greek, Gaelic, Phoenician, and Gnostic symbolism. Additionally, there are suggestions that the script could be a blend of Hebrew, Canaanite, Hittite, and Bactrian influences. George Moore, in his work Ancient Stone Pillars of Scotland, pointed out similarities between the characters on the stone and those found on Bactrian coins and Buddhist rock inscriptions from northwestern India. These connections have fueled further speculation about the origins and purpose of the inscriptions on the Newton stone. English antiquarian Thomas Wright proposed that the script could be debased Latin, translating it to High Facet Constantinus, suggesting it could be a headstone marking the resting place of Constantinus, the son of someone. Another compelling idea suggests a Phoenician connection, interpreting the text as a dedication to Eshmun, the Phoenician god of health, accompanied by a heartfelt plea from Han Thanat Zenaniah, a sorrowful magistrate. The presence of the serpent symbol, associated with Eshmun, led to speculation that the stone might have served as a healing monument. Despite these interpretations, the possibility remains that remnants of Roman armies, who lingered in Britain after the 5th century departure, left their imprint on the stone. This raises intriguing questions about its cultural origins and the people who might have carved it. As we conclude our exploration of strange rocks and stones throughout history, one thing becomes clear. These ancient relics are more than just geological formations. They are portals to the past, repositories of forgotten knowledge, and catalysts for ongoing scientific inquiry. From the Newton stone in Scotland to the formidable walls of Sacsayhuaman in Peru, each stone tells a story of human ingenuity and mystery. Across continents and centuries, these stones challenge us to reconsider what we know about our history, our planet, and even our place in the universe. The enduring mysteries surrounding these stones continue to inspire curiosity, research, and wonder. Looking to the future, as our civilization leaves its own marks on the Earth, perhaps future generations will ponder the significance of our handprints in concrete driveways and even our initials in the sidewalk. Just as we decipher ancient scripts and symbols, they will unravel the stories embedded in the artifacts of our time, forging connections across the ages. They remind us that the journey of discovery is ongoing, and the wonders of our world are limitless for those who dare to seek them. Thank you for watching this episode, and we'll see you next time. Fireside. In August 1587, more than 100 English settlers vanished from Roanoke Island. When Governor John White returned to Roanoke from England 3 years later, he found the colony completely deserted. No bodies, no clues, only a single word carved into a tree: Croatoan. Then, 350 years later, a strange stone surfaced. In 1937, a California man named Lewis E. Hammond walked into Emory University with a 21-pound rock. He claimed to have found it near the Chowan River in North Carolina, and etched into its surface was a haunting message. One side read, "Ananias, Dare, and Virginia went hence unto heaven, 1591. Any Englishman show this rock to John White, Governor of Virginia." The other side read, "Father, soon after you go for England, we came here. Only misery and war for 2 years. Above half dead these 2 years. More from sickness, being 24. A savage with a message of a ship came to us. Within a small space of time, they became frightened of revenge and ran all away. We believe it was not you." Soon after, the savages said spirits were angry. Suddenly, they murdered all save 7. My child and Ananias, too, were slain with much misery, buried all near 4 miles east of this river, upon a small hill. Names were written all there on a rock. Put this there also. If a savage shows this to you, we promised you would give them great plenty presents. EWD. It was a plea for help, signed EWD, the initials of Eleanor White Dare, the governor's daughter. The stone told of sickness, of death, of a mass grave. It suggested that the colonists hadn't simply disappeared. They'd moved, fled, fought to survive. This sparked a media frenzy. Headlines screamed about the Rosetta Stone of American history. Soon, more stones emerged, 47 more, from locations stretching across the southeast. Most were brought in after a reward was offered, and nearly all bore inscriptions from Eleanor White Dare to her father. They painted a grim saga, a slow migration from Roanoke to the Chattahoochee River Valley, and a tragic unraveling between 1591 and 1603. But then came the scrutiny. Scholars noticed inconsistencies in the language and carving style. Many of the later stones traced back to a single man, a Georgia stonecutter named Bill Eberhart. By 1941, experts and journalists had declared the entire collection a hoax, except one. Hammond's original stone, the first, the one that started it all, still lingers in uncertainty. No one has proven it genuine. No one has proven it fake. Today, all 48 stones are kept at Brenau University in Gainesville, Georgia. Most are still dismissed as fakes. But the first remains a puzzle carved in stone, a whisper from the lost colony that can still be heard today. From a stone that may hold the voice of a vanished colony, to circles that have no single author, yet speak a universal truth, we move from a mystery of words to one of balance. The medicine wheel is one of the oldest and most mysterious symbols found across North America. But it isn't a single artifact or even a single tradition. It's a circle of meanings, different for each indigenous culture, yet consistently powerful. At its core, the medicine wheel represents balance, the constant interaction between body, mind, emotion, and spirit. It reflects the cycle of life, the turning of the seasons, and the individual's place within nature, a sacred circle, unbroken and whole. There are 2 sides to the medicine wheel story. One is symbolic, personal, and lived. The other is created with stone. According to the Royal Alberta Museum, a stone medicine wheel has at least two of these traits: a central stone mound, concentric rings of stones, or lines radiating from the center like spokes on a wheel. Using that definition, Alberta is home to 46 of them, 2/3 of all known medicine wheels on Earth. The Canadian Plains are their heartland. Some wheels are estimated to date back to 4000 BC, the same era as Egypt's pyramids. Others, like the legendary Bighorn medicine wheel in Wyoming, may be even older. Some oral traditions suggest it has existed in various forms for millions of years. Whether literal or symbolic, the message is that this is not just history. It's part of a legacy. The term medicine wheel itself wasn't coined by native peoples. It came from outsiders at the turn of the 20th century who encountered the Bighorn wheel and tried to label what they didn't fully understand. Even today, these circles remain places of ceremony, reflection, and mystery. No two are identical, but all are aligned, with the stars, with the earth, and with something deeper still. But not all stones heal. Some are feared. In Japan, one such rock carries a curse, and a legend of shape-shifting deception, imperial downfall, and the spirit that would not die. In the mountains of Nasu, in Japan, where the earth breathes sulfur and the ground smokes, sits a stone with a reputation soaked in fear. Locals call it Seisho Seki, the killing stone. According to legend, it kills anyone who touches it. But the true terror behind the stone lies in the tale of Tamamo no Mae, one of Japan's most infamous spirits, a nine-tailed fox in disguise. In the 12th century, during the reign of Emperor Toba, a mysterious woman appeared at court. Stunningly beautiful, impossibly intelligent, and irresistibly charming. She called herself Tamamo no Mae. But behind the mask was something ancient, something malevolent. The emperor grew ill. No one could explain it, until a court astrologer revealed the truth. The woman was a kitsune, a fox spirit feeding off his life. Her disguise was flawless, but the magic had limits. Exposed, Tamamo no Mae fled the palace and vanished into the wild. Samurai were sent to hunt her down. She evaded them for weeks, shifting shape. But finally, an arrow found its mark. Her body died. Her spirit did not. Her soul, twisted and vengeful, is said to have fused with a rock, transforming it into the Seisho Seki, the killing stone. For centuries, no one dared touch it. Then in March 2022, something changed. Visitors to Nasu discovered the stone had split clean in two. Scientists blamed weathering. Others weren't so sure. Onlookers whispered that the fox spirit had broken free. Local officials didn't take chances. On March 26, 2022, Shinto priests held a purification ritual at the site, waving sacred haragushi, offering prayers, and making peace with what might still linger beneath the surface. In the heart of New England, the ground holds secrets, half buried in forests, tangled in roots, and draped in centuries of moss. Stone walls, chambers, altars. By the 1930s, some estimated there were over 250,000 miles of stone walls across the region, enough to circle the earth 10 times. And while many were built by colonial hands, others don't fit the blueprint. Some structures align with the stars. Others stand near dolmens and megaliths. A few contain stone slabs that look eerily like beds, or altars. Massachusetts holds the densest concentration of stone chambers in North America, 105 sites in total. Many are beehive-shaped, echoing the architecture of Culdee monks from ancient Ireland. Is it coincidence or a clue? Connecticut has 62 sites. New Hampshire has 51, and Vermont has 41. Even tiny Rhode Island holds 12. And always, these clusters hug riverways, the Merrimack, the Thames, the Connecticut, as if ancient travelers had once journeyed inland by water, leaving stone behind as they went. When English colonists arrived, they found many of these buildings already standing. Round or rectangular, sometimes 30 feet long, with roof openings that cast slivers of light inside, like a primitive skylight. Early reports described them as Indian stone castles. No one knew who built them, or why. Some may have been ceremonial sites built by native peoples. Others could be colonial constructions, root cellars, birthing rooms, or storage spaces. But a few bear features that hint at defense, fortifications without a war. We may never know the full story, but the stones remain, part of a rich past that never made it into textbooks. Near the banks of Tullaroop Creek, 5 kilometers southeast of Carisbrooke, Victoria, lies a site that speaks softly, but with ancient weight. A crescent of boulders 60 meters long, circles of stone, a lone pile of rock. Together, they form the Carisbrooke stone arrangement, one of only 4 known Aboriginal stone arrangements in the entire state, and the only one shaped like a boomerang. Or is it? The shape arcs gently, but precisely. The sides run parallel, the ends don't curve inward, details that defy the flight lines of a real boomerang. Some believe it's not a weapon at all, but something far older, and far more cosmic. One theory suggests the arc mirrors the Milky Way, that the mound marks Sirius, the brightest star. 2 smaller stone circles could represent the Magellanic Clouds, a sacred sky chart set in stone. The ends of the crescent align with the cardinal points, and based on comparisons with other ceremonial sites, some archaeologists suggest it may have been a male initiation ground. What's clear is that this place was built with purpose, and it wasn't random. But for nearly a century after European settlement, the site went unrecorded. Aboriginal traditions in the area were fragmented, survivors of disease, dispossession, and silencing. Then in 1963, a local landowner reported it. The Victorian Archaeological Survey followed in the 1980s. And slowly, the pieces began to return to the people who understood them best. This is Wurrung country, part of the Djadja Nation. Today, after years of state protection and transfer of ownership, the land belongs to the Ballarat Aboriginal Cooperative, who now serve as its custodians. We may never fully know what each circle, mound, or arc meant, but the stones remain, aligned, preserved, and watched over, carrying meaning beyond the reach of time. At first glance, it's just a jumble of stone. A strange open field in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. 80 acres of jagged, time-worn boulders scattered like forgotten ruins. Unsuspecting visitors might hike the area, expecting a scenic view or a quiet picnic spot, until someone lifts a hammer and strikes a stone. It doesn't thud. It rings. A clean, bell-like chime that lingers in the air, bright, metallic, unexpected. The sound bounces from rock to rock like an echo in a cathedral. This is no legend. It's real. These are the ringing rocks, a rare, natural lithophone. Similar fields exist in parts of England, Australia, and New South Wales, but none quite like this one. Scientists have studied them for years. The rocks are volcanic diabase, rich in iron and unusually dense. But density alone doesn't explain their sound. Some theories point to tensional stress, that the rocks, locked in place and pressed against one another just so, store energy like a drawn bowstring. Others blame long-term freeze-thaw cycles, reshaping the stones internally over millions of years. And then there's the land itself. Some visitors say that the area feels off. The air is heavier there, time passes slower. Birds won't nest among the rocks. Plants don't grow there. Compasses behave erratically. Local native legends once called it sacred. Early settlers whispered about curses. Some swore the ground was hollow. Others claimed the stones held power. The ringing rocks remain unsolved. A quiet field that sings back when touched. A mystery locked inside the bones of the earth. And when you stand in that silence, hammer in hand, listening to stone answer with song, you can't help but wonder what else the earth is still keeping. In the heart of Lebanon's Bekaa Valley stands one of the ancient world's most mind-bending mysteries, Baalbek. Once called Heliopolis, the city of the sun, this sprawling temple complex dazzles with Roman columns and ornate ruins. But it's not the visible grandeur that confounds historians. It's what lies beneath. 3 stones, or rather, 3 impossibilities. They're called the Trilithon, a trio of limestone blocks so massive, so impossibly huge, that their very existence defies reason. Each one weighs between 800 and 1,000 tons. That's the weight of 2 fully loaded 747s. And yet, they were carved with surgical precision, aligned edge to edge, and somehow lifted more than 20 feet into place. The mystery doesn't end there. Just outside the temple site in the ancient quarry lies the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, a monolith still half buried in earth, estimated at over 1,200 tons. Then in 2014, a team of German archaeologists unearthed an even larger stone beneath it. This one, untouched for millennia, is believed to weigh more than 1,600 tons. It is the largest single stone block ever carved by human hands. But no records explain how these stones were moved. The Romans, masters of engineering, never mentioned the feat. And no evidence has ever been found of the machinery needed to pull it off. No cranes, no pulleys, no sledges. Moving just one of these blocks today would require custom-built supercranes and months of logistical planning. Some researchers suggest a lost technology, a forgotten method of lifting, transporting, or softening stone. Others believe the trilithon predates the Romans entirely, evidence of a pre-cataclysmic civilization with knowledge we've long since lost. And then there are the myths. Stories say giants built Baalbek. Others claim the platform was created by the Anunnaki, sky gods from Mesopotamian legend, alien beings who descended to Earth and needed a launch pad for their return. Today, Baalbek remains a place of worship and of wonder. We know the names of the gods. We've cataloged the architecture. But these stones are still a mystery. In the heart of the Arabian desert lies a forgotten oasis, a place called Taima, once a thriving crossroads of ancient trade, power, and prophecy. And buried beneath its shifting sands, archaeologists discovered something astounding. These are the Taima stones, massive inscribed tablets etched with texts in Aramaic, Akkadian, and Proto-Arabic, carved with astonishing precision into slabs of sandstone and basalt. But it's not just the language that captivates. It's the story they tell. Among these inscriptions is a name that sent shockwaves through the world of ancient history: Nabonidus, the last king of the Neo-Babylonian Empire. These stones suggest something long debated but never confirmed: that this powerful ruler abandoned Babylon and fled to the oasis of Taima. According to the inscriptions, Nabonidus didn't just visit. He lived there, built temples, and made offerings to foreign gods. In one carved decree, he commands that locals worship the moon god Sin, a deity far from the traditional Babylonian pantheon. It's a staggering moment in recorded history: a king renouncing the capital of his empire, turning his back on Marduk, and rewriting the religious order. Why did he leave? What was his reason? Some say divine visions. Others whisper of political upheaval or creeping madness. But the Taima stones don't offer answers. They offer statements, etched in stone and left to be interpreted millennia later. Their language is clear, but their intentions remain murky. One stone, nearly 6 feet tall, speaks of building projects, tribute, and divine favor. But another, more damaged inscription hints at conflict, dissent, and possible exile. Was Nabonidus a spiritual reformer, or a dethroned ruler hiding in the desert? Was Taima his sanctuary, or his prison? After his stay in Taima, Nabonidus vanishes from history. Not long after, Babylon falls to Cyrus the Great of Persia. The Taima oasis eventually recedes into myth, but the stones remained. Today, several Taima inscriptions are housed in the Louvre Museum, far from their original home. Others remain on site, guarded and studied, but still only partially understood. They are like echoes of a time when kings could vanish into the desert and leave only stone to tell the tale. Before the modern world began to dig beneath the surface of Earth, before geology, archaeology, and carbon dating, there were the thunderstones. Scattered across ancient landscapes, buried in fields, unearthed in riverbanks, found on top of mountains, these strange chiseled stones were seen as gifts from the gods, or warnings from the heavens. To those who discovered them, they were not tools from a forgotten time. They were weapons hurled by lightning itself. Peasants, kings, and priests believed these mysterious, often axe-shaped stones had fallen from the sky during thunderstorms. They were called thunderstones in Europe, sky axes in Asia, and lightning rocks across parts of Africa and the Americas. Their discovery often coincided with some cosmic event: a storm, an eclipse, a fire in the sky. To touch one was to hold a fragment of the divine, but what were they really? Centuries later, science gave them a new name: Neolithic hand axes, flint tools, prehistoric artifacts. They were the early tools of early humans, shaped and sharpened for survival. Some date back tens of thousands of years. But to the people who found them long after they'd been forgotten, the idea of ancient civilizations wasn't even a concept. So the explanation became myth, and the myth stuck. In parts of medieval Europe, thunderstones were nailed above doors to ward off evil and protect homes from lightning strikes. Farmers in India believed they could protect crops from drought. In China, they were ground into powder and used in medicine, thought to cure ailments brought on by angry spirits. Even as late as the 18th century, educated scholars argued fiercely over their origins. Were they naturally formed during lightning strikes? Were they evidence of a great flood? Or were they, as one theory suggested, weapons dropped by angels in a war between heaven and earth? Today, thousands of thunderstones sit in museum drawers, cataloged, dated, and labeled as hand axes. But a few still rest in forgotten drawers, family heirlooms believed to carry luck, or curse, or cosmic weight. They're remnants of an era when myth stood in for memory, and when a sharp piece of flint wasn't just a tool, it was a message from a storm. For centuries, it haunted kings, alchemists, and scholars. A legendary substance whispered about in candlelit laboratories and hidden texts. It was said to hold the power to transform lead into gold, to grant eternal life. They called it the Philosopher's Stone. Not a single stone, but a concept, an artifact, a lost technology, perhaps even a physical material that once existed and then vanished. Somewhere between science, spirituality, and sorcery. The idea of the Philosopher's Stone didn't begin with Harry Potter or fantasy novels. It traces back to early alchemical traditions, especially in Islamic, Indian, and later European schools of thought. The stone was the ultimate goal of the great work, the magnum opus, a quest not just for wealth but for perfection, both material and spiritual. Alchemists like Nicolas Flamel, a real 14th century French scribe, were said to have discovered its secrets. Legends claim Flamel successfully created the stone, gained immortality, and vanished into history with its power sealed away. Centuries later, his tomb was found empty. Others chased the stone across entire lifetimes. Isaac Newton, the same man who gave us the laws of gravity, devoted years of his life to alchemy, obsessively annotating manuscripts, convinced the Philosopher's Stone could be real. To men like Newton, this wasn't magic. It was undiscovered science. Descriptions of the stone vary. Some say it looked like crimson glass, glowing from within. Others claimed it was powdered red gold, a tincture that could transmute anything it touched. In some traditions, it wasn't a stone at all, but an agent, a catalyst for transformation, both physical and metaphysical. But here's where it grows stranger. Over and over, these historical records refer to the Philosopher's Stone not as a thing to be possessed, but as a test, a sacred object that reveals itself only to those who understand its deeper meaning. Not just the formula, but the philosophy behind it. To reach the stone, you had to become something more than human. You had to transform yourself first. And maybe that's why it was never found. Because it was never just about gold or immortality. It was about the pursuit itself. About the idea that hidden in matter and mind was a secret capable of rewriting reality. Even today, long after modern chemistry has replaced alchemy, the myth of the Philosopher's Stone endures. Not as a joke, not as fantasy, but as a symbol of the impossible. Of a truth that maybe, just maybe, was lost, rather than imagined. Could it have existed? Sure. Or it could have been the perfect illusion, bait to pull humanity closer to the edges of what's real. It's said that inside each stone there's a strange kind of power, something that lasts longer than memory, and can carry stories that humanity has forgotten how to tell. Across the world, buried in red clay, locked inside museum vaults, and scattered along lonely stretches of beach, there are objects that shouldn't exist. In this episode, the fourth part of our series on mysterious rocks and stones throughout history, we're tracing the thin line between the natural and the impossible, from South Africa's perfectly grooved Klerksdorp spheres to New Zealand's haunting Meraki boulders, from the strange carved Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone of New Hampshire to the Bronze Age deer stones of Mongolia, and finally to a single cursed gemstone in a London vault, the Delhi Purple Sapphire. Each one raises the same uneasy question. What if there's more to these stones than what we think? Welcome back to Fireside Unsolved, episode 213. The Strangest Rocks and Stones in History, Part 4. In South Africa's Western Transvaal province, the soil is a deep red, the color of rust, iron, and time itself. By the early 1980s, this land was carved open by miners. The air was thick with dust, and the ground was alive with the metallic hum of drills digging into the earth. They were searching for ore, but what they found instead was something that shouldn't exist. Deep in the shafts near the town of Klerksdorp, buried in soft layers of pyrophyllite, rock so ancient it predates complex life, miners began uncovering small, smooth spheres. Most were no larger than a tennis ball, and they were surprisingly heavy for their size, and almost perfectly round. At first, they were dismissed as oddities, strange but natural products of the earth itself. Then someone noticed the detail that changed everything. A few of the spheres were marked by 3 faint grooves running neatly around their circumference. They were perfectly spaced and perfectly parallel. Too precise to ignore, too intentional to explain away. That precision posed an impossible question, because the surrounding rock dated back nearly 3 billion years, a time before oxygen, before plants, before anything even close to capable of shaping stone. The discoveries became known as the Klerksdorp spheres, and the story spread fast, blurring the line between geology and legend. Scientists were quick to weigh in. The spheres, they said, weren't tools or relics of some lost advanced civilization. They were made of hematite and wollastonite, minerals formed under immense pressure, slowly crystallizing around a small core, a process as old as the planet itself. To the scientific eye, they were natural concretions, geological pearls, not manufactured artifacts. Similar formations have been found in other parts of the world, and even on Mars. And yet, standing before one, it's hard not to feel some doubt. The grooves look deliberate. The symmetry feels engineered. One of the spheres in the Klerksdorp Museum is said to slowly rotate on its own, balanced so precisely that it turns with the slightest vibration. It's easy to see why people can't let go of the mystery. We're wired to recognize design, to look at something and assume there must be purpose behind it. But maybe that's the real story of the Klerksdorp spheres. Not that they prove an ancient civilization existed, but that the Earth itself can mimic our own handiwork, creating something so precise that it forces us to question where the line between nature and intention really lies. Imagine a stretch of coastline so remote that the world itself seems to stop there. No traffic, no voices, just wind moving through the palms and the slow, rhythmic crash of waves rolling in from the Pacific. This is the eastern shore of New Zealand's South Island, Kokohe Beach, and here, the Earth has been keeping a secret for millions of years. The first time you see them, they don't quite look real. Dozens of near-perfect stone spheres scattered along the sand. Some small enough to cradle in your hands. Others massive, cracked, moss-covered, the size of small cars. For centuries, the Meraki boulders have drawn both reverence and unease. To the Maori, they are not stones at all, but the remnants of a disaster. According to legend, they were once the cargo of the Erituru canoe. Baskets of eel, gourds of water, calabashes of sweet potato, transformed to stone when the great vessel was wrecked on its voyage to Aotearoa. The story isn't just myth, it's memory, a story of loss and migration. But there's another version of the story, written in the language of geology. Around 60 million years ago, deep beneath the seabed, something began to happen. Minerals started gathering around small fragments of life, a shell, a leaf, a bone. Layer by layer, over endless time, those particles fused into spheres of calcite and mudstone. Eventually, the ocean began to claw into the cliffs that held them. One by one, the boulders emerged from the mud and rolled onto the sand, perfectly preserved. But what makes them so unsettling isn't just their symmetry, but their precision. Nature almost never produces such perfect geometry. Each one feels deliberate, like something designed, not grown over time. Geologists call them septarian concretions, but standing among them, that phrase feels inadequate. Because when you're there, the science of the stones fade and a strange feeling takes over. People don't just look at the Meraki boulders, they touch them. Kids climb onto them. Travelers press their palms to the stone, as if they might feel time itself pulsing from the surface. Some have cracked open, exposing cores of golden calcite that glimmer in the sun. But they're not monuments made by human hands. They're monuments made by pressure, patience, and time. The slow, deliberate artistry of the earth itself. The year was 1872, and the shoreline of Lake Winnipesaukee was quiet. Just wind, water, and the scrape of shovels digging into damp earth. A small crew of men was digging post holes near the lake when one of their shovels hit something solid. 6 feet down, buried deep in unbroken clay, they unearthed a stone that stopped them cold. It wasn't big, about the size of an egg, but it was strange, perfectly smooth, polished. It didn't look like something that had been found in the earth. It looked made. When they cleaned the mud away, carvings appeared. A face first. Human, blank, watching. Then symbols. A crescent moon, a stalk of corn, arrows, circles, and intricate cross-hatched lines. Some looked almost familiar. Others felt like a language that had never been spoken aloud. And then there were the holes, drilled clean through the quartzite from both ends, meeting dead center with mechanical precision. Whoever carved it knew what they were doing. The problem was that no one could figure out who that could have been. The rock eventually landed in the hands of a local businessman, a man named Seneca Ladd. It then went to the New Hampshire Historical Society, where it still sits, known now as the Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone. It's been more than a century, and the questions haven't moved an inch. The quartzite isn't native to the region. The carvings don't match any known indigenous art or tool tradition. And those drilled holes, too perfect to be handmade, belong to an era of machines that didn't exist when the stone was buried, which leaves one unsettling possibility. If the soil around it was truly undisturbed, then this artifact might be older than the technology that created it. That's what makes it so unnerving. It shouldn't exist, but it does. Today, the stone rests behind glass. People lean in close, trying to make sense of the lines and faces carved into it. But the stone continues to offer nothing. If you drive far enough into the grasslands of Mongolia, the modern world starts to disappear. There are no trees, no towns, just wind, the kind that makes you feel like something unseen touched you when it passes over your skin. And then, out of that emptiness, the stones appear. Tall, weathered, and unbelievably precise. Locals call them the deer stones. Archaeologists will tell you there are more than 1,000 of them scattered across Mongolia and into Siberia. Most date back to the Bronze Age, 3,000 years ago. But what they are, or what they were meant to be, no one really knows. Each one is carved with the same strange, repeating images. At the base, there are carvings of weapons, belts, and jewelry. Things from the life of the people that made the stones. Above them, there are carvings of deer caught mid-leap and antlers swirling upward. They're stylized, there's emotion in them. Archaeologists have theories that they were grave markers, or spiritual gateways. The deer were sacred to the nomadic people of the grasslands, and they represented the soul rising after death. It fits the logic of the layout. The practical earthly needs at the bottom, the spiritual at the top. But it's not just the carvings on the stones that unsettles people. It's the stones in totality. How the stones got there in the first place is a mystery unto itself. The granite was quarried miles away and dragged across the plains. The surfaces were then polished smooth before the carvings were made. Some of the stones still hold traces of red pigment, meaning they were once painted, glowing red symbols in the high Mongolian sun. It's a mystery who may have had the power or the reach to make a seemingly coordinated effort like the deer stones happen. It could have been a single culture, or possibly a network of ancient people sharing one belief system. Something history has already forgotten entirely. Standing near them, the air feels heavier. The carvings don't feel like ruins. They actually feel alive. If you stay long enough, until the sun begins dipping below the horizon, the light will hit the stones just right, and the deer start to look like they're moving. Still running, away from something we may never fully understand. In the vaults of the Natural History Museum in London, there's a gem that isn't what it seems. Forget the name. The so-called Delhi purple sapphire isn't a sapphire at all. It's a violet amethyst. But this one doesn't shine. It seems to swallow whatever light touches it. The story begins far from London, in the blistering heat of India, 1857. During the chaos of the rebellion, British soldiers looted a temple dedicated to Indra, the god of storms. Somewhere inside that temple, they found the amethyst, small, heavy, beautiful, and sacred. It was stolen, pocketed, and eventually shipped home like a souvenir. And from that moment on, Everyone who owned it, well, their lives seemed to fall apart. The officer who first took it grew sick, then lost all his money, then went mad. His son inherited it and lost everything too. By the late 1800s, it ended up with Edward Heron Allen, a respected scientist and writer, a man who didn't believe in curses, only in facts. He took the gem as a challenge, convinced the stories were ridiculous. But soon, strange things began to happen. Friends who handled the stone fell ill or suffered accidents. One man borrowed it and later took his own life. Heron Allen himself described a heavy, suffocating darkness that settled over him whenever it was near him. It wasn't superstition anymore. It was something he could feel. So he decided to lock it away. He sealed the amethyst inside 7 nested boxes, surrounded it with charms meant to keep the evil in, and handed it to his bank with strict instructions. Do not open until 20 years after my death. Inside those boxes, he left a letter. Just a few sentences, written like a final warning. This stone is accursed and should be cast into the sea. But the sea never claimed it. After his death in 1943, the boxes were opened, and the amethyst was passed to the Natural History Museum. The curator said it felt wrong from the start. Some who handled it fell ill. Others reported sudden waves of dread, or nights filled with strange, violent dreams. One described it carefully, like a scientist who didn't want to sound foolish. It has a distinct atmosphere of malevolence. Today, it sits locked in the museum's vault, unseen by the public, sealed away next to Heron Allen's letter, a warning that still feels more like a plea. Because no matter how rational you are, how much you believe in science or coincidence, you can't quite shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, some objects are better off staying buried.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Fireside Unsolved. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to help the channel grow. Until next time, take it easy and be easy, you filthy bastards.